Hey, hi, friends. Yesterday, our Honorable Finance Minister has presented the budget for 2023-24. There were a lot of expectations around this budget, being the last budget of this government before going for the general elections in 2024. There have been some hits, but it appears to a lot of misses in the budget. For this session, we'll only concentrate on the amendment which are proposed in the GST law. Please note that the amendments which are proposed are being recommended by the GST Council as the procedure required. Now let us start with the welcome amendments proposed in this budget. The most welcome amendment which has come is a decriminalization of certain offenses. Now 132 lists down certain offenses which, if committed by an assessee or other persons, can lead to imprisonment and fine. There were around 12 activities which were being stipulated in that section. Now, they have actually proposed to remove 3 of those activities, namely, if there is a tampering with the documents, if there is a non-submission or delayed submission of the documents, or there is an obstruction in the duties of the officers of the CGST Act. Now, let us understand from this example that an assessee who is actually committed to offense, and largely these were in relation to the fake invoices issued by the assessee or ITC availed without the invoices. And this wrongdoing of the assessee, there are certain information which are sought by the employees of that assessee or let's say service provider like a chartered accountant. Earlier, there have been instances which has been reported in the newspapers also that they have even arrested the chartered accountants or employees or they've scared them. Today, this is a welcome move because now for these 3 activities, you cannot arrest them or impose a fine on them. So this is a very welcome move. Second important amendment which has come is with respect to the compounding of the offenses. 138 provide that the commissioner can compound certain offenses, except few offenses. Now, the most welcome change which has come is that earlier they have provided under section 138 that if the offense has been committed, which is offense under CGST Act or any other act, let's say example IBC, then the compounding of the offense was not available. Now, they have omitted that clause and substituted with a clause which provides that the offense with respect to fake invoice is something which cannot be compounded. Third, and it is an important amendment proposed, is the sharing of the information submitted by the assessee on the GSTN portal. Now they are proposing to share this information with other tax and non-tax regulatory authorities. See, of course, they have provided that this is subject to consent and which has to be notified which authorities and what kind of consent which they propose. But important is this, that the information which have been submitted to various tax or non-tax authorities now need to be consistent. In this scenario, if there is any inconsistency and this information is shared by the GST authorities, can create a problem for the assessing. Fourth important amendment which has come, and of course, this is related to input tax credit. Input tax credit has been perennially a point of contention between the assessee and the tax authorities. Now they have proposed in this amendment that the goods and services availed by the assessee for providing the obligation under section 35 related to CSR activity will not be available to the assessee. See, the important point is that lot of corporations, especially in the recent past of COVID, has taken up a lot of CSR activity. And they are also strictly obligated to provide this. Till date, there has been divergent views, and the position which was coming in Bambita Pasta and other cases, advanced rulings, is that the credit will be available because it is in the course and furtherance of the business. Now they have provided a clear bar under section 17.5 with the insertion of a clause FA that the credit will not be available. This is again in contradiction to the position which they have taken that yes, canteen, healthcare and other services will not be allowed as a credit except where it is a statutory obligation. Let's in the Factory Act to have a canteen in a factory. But this is also a statutory obligation of the Companies Act. So ideally, the credit should be available. But yes, they have denied. Fifth, and the other very important change which they have brought it, is that they have substituted section 23, which provides for certain class of assessees, largely the assessees whose income is not taxable, or who provides 100% entire exempt services. They were earlier also not required to avail to obtain the registration. Now they have introduced and started substituted saying that non-obstant to section 22 and 24. Section 22 and 24. 24, the issue now arises, section 24 provides that if a person is required to pay GST under RCM, has to compulsorily take the registration. Now with this non-obstant clause for 23 to 22 and 24, a person who qualifies for 23 is not required to take a registration. Then how? Then the main concern which arises and need to be addressed by the government is whether in such a scenario GST is not at all required to be paid, or what will be the mechanism for such person to discharge GST on such services. And now let us summarize the 4-5 key takeaways for this one. First, they have decriminalized certain offenses, which is actually a welcome move. They have allowed offenses, even if that they have allowed compounding of offenses, even if these offenses were covered as offenses of the other law, which is also a welcome move. Third, important now for all the assessees that the information which is submitted to GST portal must and should tally with and consistent with the information submitted for other regulatory, non-regulatory informations filings. Fourth, that the CSR credit will now no longer be available. Fifth, that there still remains the ambiguity on the payment of discharge of GST liability under RCM in case by the person covered under section 23. Now there are more to the part 2, which will be coming shortly. Thank you.